What's going on, everyone? Bryce Gelman here today. A lot to discuss around New York sports. I've been mainly focusing on one team and one topic each video. That's going to change now with it being mid-March. A lot of stuff around the corner, NFL draft, MLB regular season, NBA playoffs. Plenty to cover, plenty to discuss. Today, we're going to be starting with the most absurd thing that's going on right now that has happened recently, and then we're going to end with the least absurd. And to start, no surprises here. You guessed it, Aaron Rodgers. And if you missed out on it, I'll run through it a little bit here. And there's two parts to this, which is just absurd. So a couple of days ago, it was reported that RFK Jr., who is running for president as an independent candidate, potentially is considering Aaron Rodgers to be his vice president. And listen, no one's saying that RFK Jr. has got a shot in this, but if you're running for president, if you're campaigning, you're not going to be around from September to November. And Aaron Rodgers is supposedly considering this as the quarterback of the New York Jets. He is considering taking technically a political appointment for a few months. He's not going to win the election. If he does, that's another story. But Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback of the Jets, who has said everything that he said from the start of the year in Hard Knocks to just a couple of months ago in the Athletic Report, when it was put out there that the Jets, to no one's surprise, were just a complete mess and in shambles. And Aaron Rodgers brought in all of these guys, Nathaniel Hackett, Randall Cobb, Alan Lazard, you name it, to be his butt buddies on the Jets. He tore his Achilles 4 plays into the year, said, I'm going to come back next year better than ever. Basically disappeared, wasn't a resource to Zach Wilson, then came back, said, I'm working to come back. In his own world, he had to put it out there with his ego to placate his ego that he was going to come back. He never came back because the Jets were eliminated from playoff contention. It didn't make any sense to bring him back. I don't think it made sense in the first place, but he didn't come back. And now he's again the face of the New York Jets. He is what Jets fans are associating their future and potential success to. A guy that is considering a potential political appointment, which wouldn't give him any free time during the football season. That's where we're at right now with Aaron Rodgers. And then it's reported just a few days ago, I think it was actually yesterday, which was like 10 times worse. And the negative news coverage on Aaron Rodgers and the Jets just continues to roll in. But this was tough. I mean, Aaron Rodgers it was reported that he shared false Sandy Hook shooting conspiracy theories in private conversations, and just a few minutes ago released this statement on X/Twitter. As I'm on the record saying in the past, what happened in Sandy Hook was an absolute tragedy. I am not and have never been of the opinion the events did not take place. Again, I hope that we learn from this and other tragedies to identify the signs that will allow us to prevent unnecessary loss of life. My thoughts and prayers continue to remain with the families affected, along with the entire Sandy Hook community. So good damage control, right? I'm sure his publicist had to work through the wee hours of the morning and potentially all night concocting that response. It sounded like it was made in ChatGPT, but I'm sure someone was paid a lot of money to do that, or someone who's paid a lot of money to do that did it, and they released that. And it only answers one of the reports that have been out there. And yes, this is 10 times worse in terms of what we've seen recently. And obviously the fact that there was a mass shooting in 2012 that obviously happened, that Alex Jones, who of InfoWars was sued for hundreds of millions of dollars for putting it out there on his show that the tragedy never happened. So you can understand the magnitude of this. But this isn't what's going to impact him playing in the season. And he didn't even acknowledge that. So we're back at square one right now, where Aaron Rodgers still potentially mulling over this offer from RFK Jr. to go out and campaign on his behalf to potentially be the vice president on his ticket in August, September, October, and November up until the election. Can you imagine if the guy wins? I mean, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It was just the odds of that happening were just as high as the Jets winning the Super Bowl after Aaron Rodgers got hurt. So now the Jets they cannot escape this controversy. They can't escape this bad news cycle. Just when you thought they were out, they pull you back in. Aaron Rodgers pulls you back in because all of this is given a face. All of this is given a legitimacy. When you bring in one of the biggest names in NFL history, in my opinion, the most talented quarterback to ever play the game, and you bring him in, and now you've got all this national news attention because the Jets, they're a New York team. They have a lot of media. They do get some attention every once in a while, have been garbage for the last 10 years. And they didn't have anyone. I mean, the Brett Favres, the Michael Vicks of the world, none of those guys compared to who Aaron Rodgers is and who he is in the media, who he portrays himself to be on Pat McAfee, on wherever else he goes, on Part of My Take, whoever he talks to, whatever's reported about him. This is a whole different animal. It's a different beast. And the Jets are now reeling with this news because they don't even know if their quarterback is going to be playing in this upcoming season because he might be running in a political campaign. But just take a second to let that sink in, Jets fans. And as I've stated before on this show, I'm a Giants guy, host One Giant Step on Odyssey with Sean Morash. But I'm obviously in touch with everything that happens to the Jets, and I do want to see the Jets succeed. I think it's been so long, and I think this city needs a good Jets season. I think this city needs a Jets Super Bowl. Almost as much as they need a Knicks NBA championship. All right, that's enough with the Aaron Rodgers stuff. I think that as more news continues to come out, hopefully Aaron Rodgers and his team comes around and says that he's not considering this candidacy and this potential political months-long event of running for office. The one thing I will say before we move on, I take that back. The report that I mentioned earlier in January with Robert Saleh and whoever else, and the Athletic report that came out and highlighted the disarray that the Jets were in at the end of the year, the Jets are in right now. Aaron Rodgers in that report was quoted with saying about, because there was a lot of stuff getting leaked to the media, and he said, we need to get to the bottom of whatever this is coming from and put a stop to it privately because there's no place in a winning culture, and this isn't the only time. Basically saying that, we got to stop. We got to put an end to these leaked reports coming out. And he also made a few comments I couldn't find, but I remember him saying them about we need to rid the locker room. We need to rid the organization of any non-winners. How could you yourself consider you a winner if you haven't even put a stop to these reports that you could potentially be running in a political campaign? So that's where we're at with the Jets. Let's move on to the New York Yankees, who, it just never ends. It really never ends. So we thought we had something good going into this year. We thought that we had Juan Soto, three of the top 15 players in MLB, and Gerrit Cole, Aaron Judge, and now Juan Soto. Yankees might be without two of those guys on opening day. We'll definitely be without Gerrit Cole. Who knows with Aaron Judge at this point, because us Yankee fans, we understand what the Yankees have done over the years in terms of their reporting of injuries, and we understand their BSing of the media and of the fans and the disrespect that they've shown us in terms of reporting these factual reports and these factual pieces of information. So we're back where we always are with the Yankees. Aaron Judge was pulled after 2 at-bats the other day, and the Yankees came out and said he had some mid-spring beat up. In the spring! He's beat up in the spring already. And right when it happened, Aaron Boone comes out and says, I was going to pull him after 2 at-bats anyway, even though we saw him wince after he took a swing. We saw the injury happen. But the Yankees, no, they needed to come out and put a stop to whatever real information, whatever real things that we saw with their own 2 eyes, because they need to create their own story out here. That's what they do. The Yankees are sowers of misinformation, and they've been doing it for the longest period of time now, especially when they know their organization, the roster isn't good enough to compete without these injuries. They don't want to let this news get out to the fans who buy tickets, who buy jerseys, who buy whatever, and allow them to give up hope for the season. But I think a lot of sane Yankee fans have given up hope for most seasons before. Last year, especially, with them not even making the playoffs the first time in a long time. It's in 2016. So right now, Aaron Judge is mid-spring beat up. He's supposed to return to the lineup, take some swings on Saturday. Great. It remains to be seen if this is going to happen. They say that Aaron Judge will probably be ready for opening day. It remains to be seen whether or not that happens. One thing we do know for sure is that we won't see Garrett Cole on the mound in the first game of the season for the Yankees, because it has been reported, and this is factual, that he will be out for 1 to 2 months due to some elbow issues. He required some imaging because he was struggling to recover in between starts, which is more of a mid-season, late-season thing than a spring training thing. So he got imaging, the MRI. It took 2 days for them to actually report what was seen. No structural damage, no UCL tear, which is what would require him to have Tommy John surgery and miss the next season and a half. But 1 to 2 months that Garrett Cole is out is the absolute bare minimum. Speaking from experience, speaking from what we've heard from Jeff Passan, as not to say that this is 100%, that this is written in stone, that this is going to be the exact period of time that he misses. It's the minimum, 1 to 2 months. He's getting more imaging. Well, we should know more in the coming days. And if we don't know more in the coming days, then we have to brace for the worst possible news out of the Yankees. But how many times, and this has been correctly put out there by a bunch of different media guys associated with the Yankees, with John Boy, Keith McPherson on The Fan, basically calling out the Yankees for this facade that they put up when it comes to reporting injury news. This falseness, this disingenuous facade that they put up when it comes to reporting injuries. I think realistically, this is all part of a larger trend. Like, the Yankees think they're smarter than everyone else. The media, the fans, other teams, everyone. And they have this aura of superiority over everyone else. That they know what they're doing in every given situation that they deal with on a public level. And how many times have they opened themselves up to criticism? And only just this past year, where they had no other choice but to face it head on, did they actually do that? And did they actually admit that they're doing some things wrong? Apparently, they didn't learn their lesson. Apparently, they didn't understand that when you report false information, it's going to come out at some point. And you're building up this level of distrust from the media to you, but especially the fan to you. The one that allows you to be the most valuable organization in sports, the one that constantly sells out Yankee Stadium in the middle of the season, even when they're garbage, even though the product on the field is not good enough to warrant the attendance numbers, fans still show up. And you're lucky that this is a New York-based team, because this wouldn't fly anywhere else. This garbage, this lying, I've had enough of it. We are back to square one with this team. A lot of other people, and I'm not going to say myself, had high hopes for this season. They thought that the Yankees, this was the year. We got Juan Soto. We finally got a lefty, a big lefty bat in the lineup to either precede or succeed Cole in the order, or to precede Judge in the order. And we finally got that. My one major thing with that is we only have a year to watch this. The Yankees only have a year where these expectations are where they should be. 27-time world champions. From 2010 up until now, every single year, the fans have had expectations of winning a World Series. The Yankees organization, on the other hand, has not. This was the first time that we saw it. They made the move to get Soto, and they knew what that entailed. They knew he's a Scott Boras client. They knew that there was a likelihood, it could be even common at this point. I don't know what the betting odds would be on it, but probably a little bit higher than even. He's minus odds right now to not return to the Yankees, to be given a better offer out there on the market from the Mets, the crosstown rival Mets, who've been so rumored to go out and sign Juan Soto. He's going to go from the Bronx to Queens, and you're going to have to face him 6 times in the subway series. Like, this is my nightmare scenario, as it should be with everyone else, especially now that you're missing your Cy Young winner for at least the first month to 2 of the season. Who knows when he's going to return after that? You expect Marcus Stroman and banged up Carlos Rodon to fill the void there? To take a step up? To become the ace in the rotation? Do you really think that that's going to happen? Because I don't. And for good reason. How can you trust any part of this organization right now? If they come out and they are vulnerable as ever, and they say, we are going to be making wholesale changes to this organization. They say that, they spit in your face when they don't get rid of either Aaron Boone or Brian Cashman. But Hal is mad now. Hal is on their ass, and there's going to be changes, and things are going to happen. They trade for Juan Soto. And that, for a lot of fans, was enough to stop getting on the organization, to stop getting on Hal Steinbrenner, to stop getting on Brian Cashman, to a lesser extent, Aaron Boone. This will be an absolute disaster for the Yankees organization if winning this season does not come to fruition, if God forbid they don't even make the playoffs. And that's like the absolute extreme. That situation, that scenario, I can't even fathom that at this point. So what they gave up for potentially only 1 year of Juan Soto. If they don't win this year, and they don't prove to Juan Soto that this is the place to be, and they don't make it abundantly clear to Juan Soto that we will offer the same or slightly less as any other team offers you for you to return and be a Yankee for life, there will be another firestorm, as there should have been for real last year. It will be magnified times 10 this upcoming offseason. And I don't want to get to that point. It's literally March 14th. The MLB season does not start for another week or two. And we are already at that point. The mistrust, the lack of accurate information has already started. And the Yankees are reverting back to their concerning characteristics, their concerning tendencies with this lying, this culture of lying. Injuries happen in sports. Be honest with us about it. Like, yeah, it's kind of a problem because of how many different injuries and what happened with Rizzo last year. He had a concussion. They didn't even diagnose it correctly. That was concerning. And now this. Maybe this is an issue with the training staff. I'm sure that this question has been raised by plenty of people in the past. I think it's completely valid. I think for good reason. People have said that we need to smarten up. We need to completely revamp both our analytic systems and the training staff. And to my knowledge, they've made some changes with the analytics, and maybe they've made some internal changes with their training staff, but this is continuing to happen. They are falling back into bad habits. And I'm concerned again for the Yankees. I am. Because this was the year. I may not have been too excited about it, considering that they might lose their generational right fielder or whatever position he's going to play this year in Juan Soto for much more money. He's going to go across town. But this is like a whole different level. This is on a different level where Yankees fans, you should be scared. You should be extremely concerned that the Yankees are not going to be willing to find a guy to help these next 2 months without the best pitcher in baseball. They inquired about Dylan Cease, who got traded to the Padres from the White Sox. Okay, great. It was reported they did it kind of as a pivot because they heard worse news is coming out with Cole. That was shot down by a few reporters. Still may be true. The Yankees went to the White Sox and said, we are not giving you Spencer Jones. The White Sox said F off, and the White Sox made a deal with the Padres. So now the Yankees have to sit back and regroup. A team with billions upon billions of dollars needs to finally consider bringing in Blake Snell. And I know the guys on WFAN and BT and Sal, I've been listening to them every once in a while in the car. And they love Trevor Bauer. I don't want to bring Trevor Bauer in. I don't know if you've seen some YouTube videos. Marty Mush, I think it was, got a hit off him. Like, that's not the type of guy that you want to bring in with all this negative PR, with all these, again, these bad habits the Yankees are reverting back into. I don't think you want to bring in someone who is going to bring in a lot of bad PR. I don't think that's the time. I don't think this is the organization to do that. So Blake Snell or nothing. Jordan Montgomery or nothing. You got to bring in one of those guys. You have to continue to show to the fans and to the media that this team is a serious contender, that this team is willing to do everything that the Dodgers did in the offseason to compete for a World Series, that you're not going to be okay with the status quo being, okay, well, at least we made the playoffs. At least we advanced to the ALCS to get our asses kicked by the Astros. It's not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it. I'm pissed. I'm sure a lot of other fans are pissed. The media is probably annoyed that they're getting blatantly lied to every time they speak to the Yankees brass. And enough is enough. Enough is enough, guys. All right. Seriously, no pun intended. Enough is enough of the Yankees. I wanted to get to some Knicks stuff. OG Anunoby returned 2 nights ago against the Sixers. They demolished Philadelphia. Loved what I saw. OG Anunoby, the most impactful player on the Knicks. Not the most important player on the Knicks. Knicks need Julius Randle back. They need Mitchell Robinson back. So we'll see about that. Plenty more Knicks talk going forward. I wanted to touch on this stuff because it was the most pertinent information, the most newsworthy topics to cover, specifically the Rodgers stuff, specifically the Yankees stuff. I want to do a full episode, though, on how bad Alec Burks has been for the New York Knicks. Like, it's really bothering me at this point. Like, watching all these games. And I tweeted about this the other day. It's a jump scare every time he comes into the game when you see him walking to the scores table. And then when you see him check in, takes off his pants, his sweatshirt, his whatever he wears, walks into the game. And the second he puts the ball on the floor, it's another jump scare. When he takes a shot, he is the worst player in basketball. I said it a couple of weeks ago, bringing in an inefficient scorer like Alec Burks on a team that's going to have to trade Quentin Grimes in order to acquire him. I obviously didn't know that they were going to get Bojan Bogdanovic too. Made no sense. It makes no sense to play him right now, especially with Anunoby back. Alec Burks should be playing a max of 2 minutes a game. And those are only garbage time. I will die on that hill. I will not stand for Tom Thibodeau playing this guy. He's been one of the worst players, if not the worst player in basketball. And I wish I had the stats in front of me to tell you guys, but I'm sure if you watch the Knicks, you understand exactly what I'm talking about. All right, that'll do it for this edition of my YouTube show. I will see you all next week. Knicks stuff, Yankees starting their season. Hopefully better news with Aaron Rodgers. Hopefully he comes out and actually says he's not running for vice president. That remains to be seen. Let's go Knicks. Let's go Yankees. Fingers crossed for Aaron Judge and Garrett Cole.